guys, before we get started, you know what to do. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at LaunchpadPod, and our website, launchpadpod.com. Use your superpowers to smash the subscribe button on YouTube. Check out our cool faces while we talk about superpowers. Matt, this has been a long time coming. I was
just thinking that, and the way that I wanted to introduce it was we keep almost doing this episode, but then getting some sort of rad guest or amazing news. So like we keep having to push this episode because it's not as heavy hitting a thing as like having Ghostface Roger L. Jackson on to talk about our fake Scream pitches. So we keep like kind of nudging this one to next week, but we've already hit the record button. We're here looking at each other. I think we're going to do it today.
I think we're going to do it. So yeah, let's stop postponing. Stop with the business. Let's get on with the show.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right, welcome to Launchpad Podcast. I'm Aaron.
I'm Matt.
Matt, I feel like this is one that should have been in our first year. We talked about shitty superheroes like second or third episode.
Right. We talk shitty powers and shitty superheroes as like a specific thing and weird origin stories and stuff, but we never actually did an episode about superpowers, just in general, best ones, worst ones. Which, you're right. Yeah. It seems like low-hanging fruit for a nerd podcast.
I mean, I feel like we've had this conversation a million times in sleepovers over our lifetime. Would you rather have this power or that power? And I'd be like, I feel like this is just a classic nerd conversation. You walk into any comic shop right now, and there's like 10 dudes having this conversation.
It's funny that you say sleepovers, because during sleepovers as a kid, at a certain age, I was talking about girls. But now I'm talking about superheroes. Like, for sure, I'm no longer interested in that nonsense. And I'm like, whatever. Been married for 12 years. Let's talk about superheroes all night.
Let's talk about superheroes all night. I miss old school sleepovers. Don't you wish you could just like get a bunch of people and daisy chain a couple Xboxes together, break out Halo?
We had like a shitty movie sleepover once. It was kind of like, most people left before we actually went to sleep, but we did go to sleep. It was at James and Randon's house, I think. And we actually we slept on the floor. We watched movies late and then slept on the floor. It was cool.
Sounds like fun. I don't think I can stay up that late anymore.
No, that was like probably 8 to 10 years ago. But like, yeah, how cool is that? I still want to live in the dorms. I still want to live I want you to live down the hall or on a different floor of the same building that I live in at least.
Dude, dorm life was so fun because it's like we lived in these big, tall buildings. I was like, you're bored? Go to a different floor. See what the fuck's happening there.
It was also filled with a bunch of there's always random adventures that I would find or fall into or start. And then also you're living with people like most of my friends at college were my friends. So they lived in the same building as me. It's cool.
It was fun. It's fun. But let's get on with the show, man. We've already digressed too much.
Yeah, our superpower is procrastination for this episode, right? We just keep fucking...
Lame superpower. That's a lame superpower.
With the power of going on the back burner every week.
Where should we start, man? I think the most obvious one is the one everybody thinks about first. Let's talk about flight. Let's talk about flying as a superpower. Okay. Thumbs up, thumbs down. What's your initial thought of flight?
Thumbs up. It's a great power. I don't know if it's my first. I don't know if it's the first or only one that I'd want. But how fucking fun would that? You ever have a dream where you're flying?
All the time, and then I fall and I wake up. Oh shit! Hit the ground.
If you fall in your dream, it means you're a shitty flyer. You probably shouldn't fly in real life.
I would be a shitty flyer because here's the thing. Thumbs down. Flight is overrated. Flight is way overrated. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing you never think about. Nobody ever thinks about the environment, right? You can fly. Fucking cool. Rain hitting you when you're flying 70 miles an hour feels like bullets to your face. That fucking sucks. Sun? Are you going to have a helmet on? Because just sun alone. I've sat out in the sun. I haven't even been flying. I sit out in the sun, burn out. And you, Matt, as a ginger, come the fuck on. You're going to be sunburned. Have you ever seen a guy and you're like, That dude rides a motorcycle. How can you tell? His face looks like shit leather. That's what you will look like if you're Superman. His perfect skin, fuck him. He would look like shit bagged crocodile leather from flying around somewhere.
Well, that's Superman because his skin is literally bulletproof, so I don't think rain is going to bother him.
Okay, but how about this?
But you're right, like the average idiot, right?
Let me ask you this as well. What's your how long can you hold a plank for? Like lay on your back and hold up your feet. How long before your stomach starts burning? Your core has to be rock hard iron to be able to hold your legs out in a flying position forever. Every time I see guys on motorcycles with the giant like gorilla handbars, I'm like, that dude's arms are like spaghetti after 2 hours. That cannot be comfortable. No fucking way. I dare you right now, hold your hands up above your head out front like you're flying and see how long you can do that before you're like, no, I'm not into this. Like flying takes a physicality that nobody's prepared for.
I think that's true. And that's something that I admit I haven't read as many Superman books as I have Batman, or I haven't read as many, whatever the Marvel equivalent would be off the top of my head. But I want to see that explained as a way, like explain it to someone who can't fly, how it feels to someone who can. And the closest thing I saw was in what was the Invincible in the Robert Kirkman one. When the dad was teaching him how to fly, he says it's kind of like purposely peeing your pants, which I thought was like a shitty way to explain it. But okay, it's a bodily thing that we don't usually do that you'd have to actually try to do. And it would feel weird the first couple times you did it. So I kind of I always thought it would be cool if Superman explained his flying as like flexing a muscle or holding his breath, because you can't do it indefinitely and it does take effort. And I think you need to set those boundaries so that a reader what's more foreign to a human being than physical flight, like from your own, like self-motivated flight, right? We don't know what that would be like, especially if you're not flapping your arms. And you're making the point about like holding a plank and laying down. Who's to say that you couldn't just levitate standing up and fly the same speed and everything vertical? You'd have wind shear and everything. Yeah, but
we're horribly unaerodynamic.
Yeah. So we're not made for that. Literally,
a hamburger is more aerodynamic than we are. and again, like you're super inefficient at it. Like
I'd read a book called Super Burger.
Super Burger. I literally just saw a video online that was like a hamburger in a wind tunnel, and it was like surprisingly aerodynamic. Pretty cool.
I think that's a flying saucer, right?
Right? Yeah, and we are not that. So I think human beings were not built for flight. So even if you had that power, I think there'd be a lot of things that we would encounter that's like, man, Superman makes this look way cooler than it is.
Still, though, I think if you went slow and weren't necessarily traveling around the world or above the stratosphere.
Yeah, still way cooler than to do in a car. Fuck you, loser. Fuck you, loser. I would fly around just to do that. Be like, look at these assholes in Atlanta traffic.
I think it would definitely be fun. I think it's a safety risk, right? Especially like we've seen the landing process multiple times of them trying to land, right? If you don't have super strength, it's going to be harder.
A seagull ran into Fabio's face, ended his modeling career. Can you imagine if you were flying? Superman's like, I used to be super handsome. Now my face is ruined because I ran into a sparrow.
I think about that Fabio thing, I would say once a month on average.
Just lives rent free in your head. How does that
because
happen?
It's like, well, it's just, I mean, I guess mathematically, the chances of it happening to him are the same as it to happening to anybody. But for everyone else to hear that, it's the chances of me hearing Joe Schmo got hit in the face with a bird while on a roller coaster. The chances of me hearing that about a random person are way greater than me hearing it about a famous person. And then if the famous person is a model, I think you slowed like those chances, those odds become even less. And every once in a while, I just think about what a random fucking thing to happen in life, you know? Then again,
so you're basically like the odds of that is like lightning shooting straight down his people. Like that's how small of like a fucking that's how precise it was for that to actually happen.
Now, here's a good one. I was thinking like I was going to make the joke about imagine how the bird felt. What if the bird was like a famous bird? So
on
like
the cover of bird sex novels. Yeah. He was on the
So
bird
right now, there's two
erotic
dildo
bird.
birds having a bird podcast. And they're like, remember when Bird Fabio smashed into that random guy at a roller coaster? Because they don't know that Fabio is Fabio.
They're like, that's like shooting right down a dolphin's cloaca. Lightning strikes. Crazy, dude. It is crazy. Every time I let my hair down and I swoosh and look in the mirror and I'm like, fuck yeah. I'm like, oh, I could get hit by a seagull.
Watch out for seagulls. Yeah.
My handsomeness could be over. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Then we'd have to call ourselves the handsome boy and the other guy.
And that guy who got hit by a seagull.
Seagull face.
Got hit so hard it melded with me. So I constantly have this like co-host off the side of my face. And I just have to feed him crackers to keep him shut the fuck up. There's a superpower I don't want. Seagull.
Seagull face.
Seagull face.
It's definitely one of the lesser used powers, right? For sure.
Give me another one.
All right, here's another one that I think a lot of people fantasize about in everyday life and think it would be cool. Invisibility.
I have an invisibility tie-in. Invisibility is for perverts. What?
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Invisibility. Let me ramp this one off.
Okay.
Invisibility is the college. It's the graduated superpower for people who think they want X-ray power. X-ray vision. Because X-ray vision is for perverts. X-ray vision is what a teenage boy thinks a gynecologist does. But then they get the power and then they're like, oh, this isn't what I wanted at all. I don't want X-ray vision. All I see is bones and see through stupid shit. What a dumb power to have. This is mildly useful, but also a massive pain in the ass. What I really want is invincibility so I can go be a pervert unhindered. Yeah. Invisibility is the graduated assumption for perverts. Because any Invisible Man movie we've seen, they turn into fucking psychos and perverts.
That's true. No one is using invisibility. We've never seen, aside from Sue Storm, we haven't really seen anybody use.
Freak. She's a secret freak. You know that shit. Her husband's away in a lab. She's off doing freaky shit. You know this.
But I would say at least she does use her powers for good, at least at times. Maybe not in the bedroom, but what other invisibility person has used it for good? At least, I mean, I guess there's not too many famous ones, right?
I can't think of that many invisible people. I mean, I know definitely a jet that uses it for good.
Who?
A jet that uses it, an invisible jet that uses it for good.
Yeah, I guess you're right, because I guess you could use it for, like, practically speaking, you'd be a great fucking spy, right? You'd be a great weapon of a government or something, right? Yep. But in your daily life, what would I need invisibility for? To not get caught. And what are you not getting caught doing, right? Like,
did you ever see, I think it's the third or fourth sequel to the Universal Monsters Invisible Man movie. It's called Invisible Agent. And it's about a guy behind enemy lines, a soldier in World War II, trapped behind German enemy lines, and he's invisible. And he gets this chick to help him by being a pervert. But he does all this stuff to like freak Nazis out and scare them away, which is like, it's cool. It's not the best movie, but like the idea of it is way better than the movie is. And again, really cool, like old school VFX and special effects to make the invisible agent do invisible shit. But most of the time he's just like, oh, this Nazi's about to sit down, yoink, and pulls the chair out and like he falls over and is like, yeah, the chair was open. Oh, and you're like, oh, this is hilarious. There's way more laughs involved, but like I think there's some pretty cool stuff going on. I like it. Like he drinks the serum just as he jumps out of an airplane and like turns invisible and like takes his clothes off, because in those movies they're always naked. I'm like, you just parachuted with your ding dong out, dog. That's
what I was going to bring up too, because Sue Storm and a couple other people can turn invisible with their clothes.
Right.
Does not make sense to me. Unless you have the power to make things invisible, including yourself, right? So, and I admit, I'm not a big Fantastic Four person. I don't really know how her powers work, but
sometimes she's like, I built a special costume that can help, but like her costume turns invisible with her.
Right, it definitely does. And I guess you could imagine the power two different ways. One is like Invisible Man style, where you are injecting something into your body and your body is turning invisible, right? The cells and the parts of your body are turning see-through. They're allowing light to pass through it. So if that's happening, that wouldn't affect your clothes, right? If it was off of your body. Yeah. But if your power was essentially like creating an invisibility shield, if you could make something else invisible, like if you could make something on your desk invisible, you could argue that you could make yourself invisible. And that would include your clothes, I would guess.
Actually, the thing I like about this, that we don't get to do much with it, is, yeah, if you had the ability to project it or to be invisible, the spy aspect of it, I think, could be really, like, you get yourself in some sticky situations and, like, you have to concentrate really hard to hide the key that they're looking for or whatever it is, you know. I think there's something there. And I think invisibility is a pretty interesting one to have. But again,
you're going to be seeing naked chicks with that for sure. Like, there's no way, even if you were even if you gave someone like Steve Rogers or Clark Kent invisibility, they'd probably take a quick peek at somebody just to try it, right?
Yeah, they're just like,
even with their high morals and everything, you're like, well,
can I? I mean, if no one finds out, is it wrong? Sure. You're like, what? What are you doing, Superman? Yeah. So X-ray vision is dumb. I think it's only good for, like, I can see the components in the safe. I know how to get in there now. But it's like, for the most part, you want to be invisible over X-ray vision.
For sure. If I had invisibility, I would use the goofing around chair, like Nazi chair moving aspect of it way more than the pervert one. Like, yeah. I would be fucking with so many people. Can you imagine if one of us was invisible when we lived together? Like, one of us had that power.
Arf, arf.
Yeah, there would be so much arf, arf, arf.
There's an invisible dog and it's terrifying.
Oh my God. I would fuck with people so much. That would be good.
It would be fun to fuck people. Yeah. Oh, it'd be super fun to fuck with people. Here's one that I don't think has a lot to comment on it. I was like, super strength. Yeah. Be fucking awesome. Probably as a utility, one of the most useful superpowers. Like, hands down, super useful. Like, now, super strong. I have nothing negative to say about it, unless you're like a Lenny type where you're like, oh, I don't know my own strength, and then you're like crushing the bunnies.
Or if you look like Thing or Hulk, like it turns into a physical thing that differentiates you. Because, like, I love the aspect of the Thing, where he is the only of the Fantastic Four who was changed in such a way that he no longer can really live society in the same society the way he used to. All the other three can.
Bullshit. Okay, well, I guess Human Torch can turn off the fire.
Right.
Which is true. But, like, who gives a shit about him when he's not on fire? Boring.
Nobody, but that's the thing, is he could go into the store, he could go out on a date. Ben, like, all seriousness, Ben Grimm can't. So as much as he is enhanced by his powers, he's also, I mean, the fact that he looks like he does, it's not necessarily his strength. What if it was, like, to make it like a real world thing? What if you were, like, literally the size of Ben Grimm, but you still look like a human, but you just turned into like a muscle guy, giant muscle guy. So you didn't look like you anymore. You look like you on, like, giant steroids. You okay with that? Or,
I mean, I suppose, again, what am I using it for? Pervert shit.
Yeah.
No, again, strength is one of those things. I think it'd be fine. You'd find a way to work with it because, again, super fucking strong. Who's going to tell you to do anything? Like there's the Ben Grimm downside I get, but he's also languished in that for what, 100 years? How long?
Get over it, Rock. Kent calls him Rockman. Get over it, Rockman.
Get over it, Rockman. Dude, like, at this point too, like, you're a goddamn celebrity. Use that. Like, I don't like being ugly. Ask Steve Buscemi. It's worked out great for him. He's rich as shit. He's fine.
But do you think Rockman can still have a fun sexual relationship with a woman?
With a blind woman? Yeah, she's way into him. She's way fucking into him.
Do they have kids? I don't know if they have kids.
No, I don't think it's possible for him. What, did he shoot pebbles?
Literally, you said that while I was thinking that joke. I was trying to figure out the best way to word it, but that was it.
I think there's been way too many conversations. It's been in movies. Rockman's dork.
Well, yeah, I think super strength is a good one to have. You're right. And there's probably, unless you're physically deformed, there's not too many downsides to that.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
You brought up a really good point, though. I'm going to say it a couple times, especially for what might be my favorite powers.
Yeah.
But what is the world? What is the reason we have these? What is the universe? Like, is it just Matt and Aaron, the Launchpad podcast guys, have powers? Are we superheroes who are literally fighting other people? I've seen like there was a bitchin' show called Alphas that only lasted like 2 seasons or something. And it was like heroes, but it was essentially heroes, but not as flashy. And they weren't necessarily fighting. So it was like they were almost like a crime team that all had kind of real world based powers. I'll tell you about one in a second. But depending on what everybody else in the world has, my powers that I would want would change. Because some of my powers I think are cool, but if it was like a freak thing and only I had it, it's not going to benefit me because I'm not like fighting supervillains. Does that make sense?
It does. I guess I've always thought about these as if Aaron just had powers, because at the end of the day, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. And I'm always like, nah, I'm good. I got enough I have a 2-year-old. That's enough responsibility as it is. I have a job. I have a house. I don't need the added
I'll take a pervert power, please. I'm not saving the universe. I'm not fighting Galactus. I just want to sneak into the girls' locker room.
Also, like knowing the extent of like how awful like the world is without supervillains, knowing how shitty it would be to have powers, and like what am I going to do to fight the steamroller of capitalism? They'd find a way to be like, that guy has powers. Boo. Yeah. Like real powers. Boo. Fuck that guy. Aaron sucks. Like they would find a way to be like, Coke boycotts me. And I'm like, no.
But like, imagine me and you in the van and you take off all your clothes and I'm like, you ready? And you turn your invisible and then you creep into the Capitol to try to steal their secrets while I look through my X-ray vision. And I'm like, okay, I see where you are in the building. Make a left.
Oh, see, if we both had pervert powers, then we like really do some
if you had 2 perverts, you could use it for mild good.
Do some like mild Watergate situations. But even then,
just move the chairs around.
Found out the president's an asshole, and you're like, yeah, everybody knows that. No, nobody cares. It's like, oh no. You're like,
and then they'd slander you. They'd be like, quote unquote hero walking around naked in the Oval Office.
It's like, oh my God, corporations are evil. And they're like, yeah, we've been doing it for years. And found that out on your own. Einstein.
Yeah, and we're evil without powers, assholes.
Assholes, yeah, I know. I'm like,
well, how about this for a pretty cool power? I like this one a lot. And this actually was in the show Alphas, but it also, I think, is something very similar to Daredevil and Bullseye. Mm-hmm. But like just being just excelling physically at manipulating things. There was a guy in Alphas who essentially, like, Bullseye's power is he can kill you with anything, right? Which isn't necessarily a power. It's just he's that fucking good. So Bullseye once took a paper clip, flicked it, it dinged off a glass and landed on his page of his book, and he used it as a bookmark. That's fucking incredible to have the physical acuity to do that.
If you were one of those like internet videos of somebody throwing a ping pong ball, but just every single time you sunk it, you're like, yep, I did that.
You can make money that way. In Alphas, when the guy was realizing he had similar powers, he was standing at a vending machine and throwing quarters into the coin slot and kept increasing the distance. Now, like, think about it. And he was unerringly getting them in, you know? And I think that sort of, you know, so he'd be able to chase people and grab things and swing it and do parkour and shit like that. But I think that like on an everyday scale, I think actually that would come in really useful because you could use it so many times to do so many things.
I can't tell you how many times just putting on pants, I'm like, put my foot in the wrong hole. Like if it was just like every time, like, yes, I didn't mess up putting on this goddamn shirt. I didn't trip over my own 2 feet. I am winning at life today.
How many times have you almost dropped something, tried to catch it, bobbled it, and then made it worse than if you had just straight up dropped it? Now imagine if not only you never dropped anything, but if you did, you were able to catch it. That would be fucking cool. And I like, first of all, it'd look cool. Second of all, I feel like maybe this is just because I'm fucking anal and OCD, but to have that sort of mastery over your physicality and your body sounds so cool. I also just, maybe again, it's because I read a lot of Daredevil, which has a lot of Bullseye. But when those guys do things like that, I'm like, whoa. Whereas like when Superman stops a train, I'm like, yeah, you're Superman. What were you going to do? You know, you stop the train because you're strong and you can fly.
But also you're always super fucking cool because you're like flipping something and you always catch it right. You don't look like, you never bobble it. You're like, it's like that cowboy who walks up and he like flicks the cigarette in the air and catches it in his mouth and he lights it on the first try. And you're like, it's, nothing ever goes wrong.
Yeah. I mean, and it's, if that was just your power, if you could do that. And again, I guess we'd have to go back to what I said about flying. And is it like holding your breath or peeing your pants? When you use that, like if I wanted to throw a quarter into a vending machine, does that take effort or is that just natural? Is it a natural calculation for me? Almost like a basketball player, right? You think about me and Michael Jordan on a court. He is, mechanical memory can sink so many pointers without really worrying about it. Does it become that way? Although I guess a lot of that is learned though, right? Some of that might be natural talent, but he honed that skill. So he had to practice and practice.
Muscle memory, yeah.
So I guess you're kind of splitting that hair, right?
That would be an interesting addendum to a bullseye thing. Like, he might not be good at it the first time, but if it's in his muscle memory, like a character like, oh shit, I've never done this maneuver before, but like I can sink a basket, so I can probably sink a similar thing. If I need to throw something at a distance, I'm good at that. I can do that, but I need to shoot something. Oh, I've never done this before, but if I get it once, I practice it a little bit, I'll be forever good at it. I think there's an interesting thing to that idea of muscle memory versus natural talent. But I like that too. Here's the thing. Anytime somebody sinks something in real life, you have a piece of trash, you are 10 feet away from a trash can, you throw it. If you sink that, what happens in the room? Anybody else who sees it, what do they do?
Cheer.
Yeah, they go, whoa.
Yeah.
In TV shows and movies, this is something that pisses me off. I talked about this on the Tales from TV podcast that I was recently on. Episode has not come out yet, but it will soon. And I was like, in Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon throws a knife from 50 feet away from the roof of a building and pegs a zombie in the face and nobody cheers. Everybody would go ballistic. Oh, shit. He does it again. I goddamn dare you not to freak the fuck out if somebody nails a miracle shot twice. Everybody in the room would go, oh, shit.
Even in a zombie apocalypse,
yes,
we would like for you and I would sure high five, right? Like for sure.
Yeah. He didn't high five anybody. That is a miracle shot. I don't care how hard your life's been. I don't care what a badass you are. You sink a shot like that twice, you will lose your goddamn mind. Running around the roof, everybody's high fiving you. You're like, yeah, okay, focus. TV in movies, nobody ever does that. When Brody shoots the tank and Jaws explodes and Hooper comes out of the water and doesn't high five his ass, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? He's like, I saw that, dude. I was underwater and I saw it. You hit that from 30 yards and we are fucking.
That would be a whole nother awesome episode. Would just be missed high five opportunities in movies and.
Brody's lying there.
Han pulls up along Luke and the Death Star pieces are in the background. They open their windows and just
high five. 1 in a million, kid. But like, to be fair, in Star Wars, people did react appropriately. They went, "Oh yeah, he did it," because they were about to get blown up. But come on. To keep things moving along, let's talk about a quick one that snowballs into a better one. Healing's fucking awesome, right? We can all.
Oh fuck! I didn't even think of that, but yeah, it is.
Is Wolverine immortal? This has come up many times.
I think my thought is no. And I base that on how I interpret the character, not on any specific book.
Yeah.
It makes the character more interesting if he's not, because if he 100%. Is, then you're like, okay, whatever. I would think that you could kill him via drowning. I would think you could kill him if you could keep him from rejuvenating. But you like, because I think there's a line between dead and alive, right? Medically speaking.
Yep.
So if I shot you in the heart, there would be a point where that heart could no longer prove its function, and then you would start to die. I think if Wolverine's heart did not fix itself in that situation, he would be dead. I don't know. Some people say he wouldn't be, but once he was able to heal, he would come back. So like the drowning aspect, I've heard someone say like if he's drowned, but then you take all the water out of him, his lungs would start to beat again. Like
no, because you're dead. Once you're dead,
that's how I think. That's
yeah.
But again, like what makes you dead, right? Your heart stops pumping and your brain stops. But if Wolverine's healing ability is to overcome that. If his brain then started again and his heart started again, why would he not be alive again?
I agree with you, though. It doesn't make it interesting if he's completely, although some of my favorite art of him regenerating is after he survived a nuke and his body's like just a skeleton and he like grows up back together. I think that's kind of cool. But to that end, if he's lived forever, we know from comic books that he's been in the past. He's lived for a really long time.
Yeah.
Living forever, what is the thing that they always show as the downside of living forever?
All your loved ones die.
Yeah, you know what? I've had a dog that's passed away, so I know it's not that bad. I can get new loved ones. It's all good. Living forever is a fucking dope fucking
Wait,
power.
really? You think that?
If you live forever, human beings are no worse than pets to you. Losing a goldfish? Yeah, fucking
But what about the
sucks.
first one? You have a family right now. What if right now you became immortal?
Yeah.
And you knew it. What if you knew you were immortal?
Yep. Okay. 900 years, it would fucking suck the first one. But if you've lived forever, by the time you've lived for thousands of years and you're like, oh man, my current love is dead. I got, that'll suck for about 1,000 years, but you live forever. It just turns into.
You're looking at the big picture here.
I'm looking at the big picture. Yeah. Dude, losing you would be terrible. But guess what? In another 1,000 years, I got another podcast. This one's pretty funny too. It's so yeah, obviously you would suck to lose your family the first time, but like think about the first time you lost a dog, your pet died. Like it was awful. Oh my God. But you get another one.
I was just thinking I was going to make the joke of like, well, you don't have to lose me, just bite me and we'll be immortal together. And then I was thinking, wait a minute, if you have a bro or a significant other that you feel that strongly about, fuck yeah. Like I don't read a lot of vampire lore and shit, but like, what if it's the opposite of Twilight, where it's like or maybe that is what Twilight is. I don't really know a lot about Twilight, but like you find your one, your soulmate, and you're both immortal together forever. Whoa. Yeah. Sorry, the rest of my friends that die, but I can get new friends.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like,
all right, you convinced me. I'm on board. Bite me.
I shit watched the first one, the first Twilight, and it's a pervert power because he never gets old. So he's like, I'm in high school. And it's like, yeah, but you're 900 years old. I'm watching you sleep. Fucking pervert. I can turn invisible. All right, now we're getting somewhere.
I guess this makes sense, right? Because nerds write and draw comic books, especially at their inception, right? Nerds read comic books. Now nerds are podcasting about comic books. We're all just a bunch of creepy perverts who can't get any in real life. So we're getting these powers, which are really just metaphors for creeping up on people.
Maybe they'll like me if I have this power. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You're right.
Splitting it into the two powers, you just kind of like, it's one power that you kind of evolved into another one. But immortal, okay, I kind of see that. It'd be kind of cool to watch a power struggle between two immortals that like one is yes and one is no. I think that's cool. So
that movie Versus is dope. Highlander's dope too. Yeah, well, the first one, the second one's garbage. Oof, so bad.
Highlighter is a movie and a concept. Highlander
is a marker that yellow and sometimes green.
Got to take the top off. That's the only way to kill it. That's true. That Highlander was based on highlighters. It's the same concept. If you take the top off of a highlighter, it's done.
It dries out.
Highlander is one of those movies and concepts that like was better with me and my friends playing it in the backyard than the actual film. Like the first film is really good for what it is, but like The Crow, I feel like I want it to be more when I watch it. But like when me and my friends played Highlander outside, it was fucking epic. And I think my friend did a better accent than Sean Connery. All right. So Immortal, I like you know what it is? Immortal, there's a lot of good story with that power. Yes. Super strength, like we said, Ben Grimm, if it deforms you physically, you can only get so much out of that. But with the immortal concept, that's one of those things that from now until forever, everyone can have different feelings about it. And you could make a lot of different points about what's good and what's bad about that. Right. So I like that. Even you and I joking about it kind of touched upon a couple of things that you could be like, oh, that's a decent point. Healing, though, healing is a great power. I think healing yourself is a really good power. What about being able to heal others. Like I know
Oh.
there's X-Men who could do that too.
You're a core archetype of a D&D team, man.
For sure. Yeah. You're a necessary part of a team,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. There's no team mechanic without the healer. There's like any video game that has a team mechanic, somebody's got to be the healer. There's always that's one of the biggest fantasies of team lore, of co-op action adventure games. There's the person who's the healer. Usually they're magic people. Usually they're wizards or witches.
Mutants.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah,
it's a basic human need, right? Like you don't need to be strong to survive, but you need to be able to heal essentially to survive, right? If you're a person or a family or a clan, you need that ability to be able to bounce back from different things, not necessarily super villain battles, but you need to be able to heal yourself. And I constantly think about how fucking amazing the human body is that we're able to heal. Like even if you break, I explained to one of my kindergartners what a cast does. Yeah. And I explained to them, like, your body will heal that, but you need to keep it still so it heals correctly. But just the fact that your body will fix a broken bone or at least do its best to try, that's freaking magic. Like, if you think about it, we're pretty unstoppable in that regard where we can literally fix ourselves to a pretty extensive point, right?
Yeah. It's like I'm not going to go above and beyond, but the basic things, including broken bones, I'll try. It's fucking great.
Yeah, it's a really interesting system, and I guess a lot of animals and plants can do similar things. But what a great idea for sustaining life, right? To figure that out. But yeah, on a super scale, it would be cool to heal yourself from anything. Although for sure that would be a detriment to me, because that would be like the opposite of the coin flicking power. Because I'd be like, I don't have to be careful crossing the street. I don't have to be careful on a tall building.
Just because I would super clumsy. Yeah,
for sure. Like for sure, it'd be like that Family Guy episode where Peter Griffin can't die. There would be a week or so of that. And then there'd be like just general, like, I'm not wearing goggles while I use this wood saw. I'm not putting gloves on while I'm raking up this.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I would get probably pretty lazy if I could heal easily.
Not lazy, just dangerous.
Yeah. Both.
And that would be a terrible power for a parent to have, because right now I have to watch that Kent doesn't mimic or do shit that I do. And I feel like if he watched me cross the street with invulnerability powers or healing powers...
Right? Oh my God.
First of all, traumatizing, because he'd watch me get splattered by a car, and then I'd be like, "Don't worry, son."
Yeah, then thing it back together. Oh God. Yeah. Traumatizing. Absolutely, utterly
that
awful.
Might be worse than watching me get splattered is watching me unsplatter, right? The deal is, though, and I hate when movies or shows show someone get a bullet hole, and then the bullet hole closes up and the blood goes back into the bullet hole. No. If blood drips onto my chest, that blood is used and done and out of my body. The bullet hole can close, but I should still have a bloody mark from what came out. I shouldn't be cleaned as well. It's not a healing and cleaning power.
Can't you? Wouldn't there be if he gets shot and then it starts to close up? And you're like, fuck, and you're trying to get your fingers in there, get the bullet out.
The bullet out? Yeah, for sure. Or spit I've seen it spit the bullet out, but
that too,
there should still be, even if it's not a scar, there should still be blood marks from where that just happened, right?
100%. Yeah, no, yeah. Blood is the highlighter of where you got injured.
The Highlander, if you will. All right, I got a really good power.
Okay.
But it depends on the situation that like the rest of the world is in.
Okay.
I love in Heroes, there was a character who could negate other people's powers. And he was working with like the spook group that was trying to hunt these guys down.
Yes.
And for a while, they didn't realize that that's what he was doing. So for certain times, their powers would just fail. And I think that's so cool. The same thing also as absorbing or taking someone's powers, either permanently or in a case-by-case basis. Like there are people who, when they fight other people, they have their powers. That's awesome if you're in a world where there's other people with powers, especially if you're fighting, because it immediately levels the playing field, right? If you can fly and now I'm near you and I can fly, you don't have an edge over me. And I like that idea. And I also like the idea of if we're in a world where we have to worry about powers, if my power is to knock your power out of the park, that's a valuable power to have. Like you said, on a team, if you had a guy on the team who could nullify the other team's powers, that's huge. I think, in a fighting, some sort of contest, right? Some sort of battle.
At the same time, though, it's like, it's a sucky power to have because you're only used for that. And people want to use you for that. Like, you don't get to do anything. Basically, you've just made it so nobody can have any fun. So you walk in the room and everybody stops having fun, and your power is just to be there and be like, hey, I'm not having any fun either. I don't get any powers. I also don't get to see any cool powers. Every time I'm in the room, I see people being like, oh, can I do the thing that I could do a second ago? And you're like, yeah, that's me. Sorry, bro.
But what if you're like, I think, and again, in Heroes, I think Sylar was collecting powers. I think his power was to collect powers. And I think he had to kill people to get them. But what if your power was to collect, or if you could catch and retain powers?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's probably the ultimate power, right? But
that's what Rogue does. Yeah, you could rogue it up.
Yeah, but her thing is she'll kill you if she takes it. So there's, and again, that's a really good story point. That's a really good plot boundary to make. But I like that idea because then you're suited for any situation that you're in. You're not at a default. You're not like, shit, your power trumps mine. It's like, oh, we have the same powers. I think that's cool. And I think it also makes you a really important part of a team in a superhero universe, I guess. If I was the only idiot that had that power, well, clearly that wouldn't be a power then. How would I even know I had it? I might have that power right now.
I'd say we all have that power.
Unless I see some random asshole in spandex fall from the sky and be like, what the fuck just happened? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I might have a superpower that negates your flying.
I just found out, bro. I had no idea.
I'm going to go to Ralph's. You tell me if you keep flying when I leave, okay?
Next to me. Here's one that often comes up that people think is a good power, but it secretly sucks. Being super smart.
Okay. It secretly sucks?
No, I don't think it's a secret. I'm average smart, maybe even above, but mostly average smart.
Okay.
But the bell curve is swung so hard because most people are fucking idiots that I feel super smart sometimes. Like I like literally finishing people's sentences as they talk to you, and you're like, oh my God. Astronauts. They see how small the world is, and it drives them fucking insane. To be the smartest person in the room must be a curse because you're surrounded by morons. And it's painful to watch TV and be like, fucking moron, fucking moron, fucking moron. And then you're suddenly like, I'm not even that smart. How do I feel this awful about it? To be super smart, literally like one of the smartest people in the world, must be a horrible, heavy.
So then it turns into Ozymandias, right? Where you're watching 1,000 TVs at once and you're like, I have to fucking bomb New York to save the world, right? Yeah.
There's nothing to save. Burn the earth. That is your likely conclusion.
So
humanity's doomed.
You go over Ozymandias' house, right? He's like, hey, do you want to come over and watch TV with me? And you're like, yeah, bro, because we're both really fucking smart. So you guys are lounging on the sofa watching 1,000 channels of TV at once. And he's like, dude, the earth is fucked. We need to fake an alien and we need to fake a psychological alien invasion to then save the world. And you're like, no. The world shouldn't be saved because everybody's just idiots, just terrible.
I'm like,
and then you have a debate.
Yeah, I'm like, we should still do that just because it'd be fun. Let's start in Florida, but
it'd be fun to nuke New York. That's what you just said.
No, don't start in New York. Start in Florida. Start in Florida. It'd be fun to do, but like, there's no point. You're not saving shit. Like at the end of the day, you wipe out, and there's more idiots to come. Like it's not getting better unless you just, here's the power to make everybody else smarter. As a teacher, you're on that quest, but you have the frustration of like, you're not absorbing I'm giving you that. I'm literally spoon feeding you knowledge. And you're like, it's like feeding an infant. You're like, eat your spinach. It's good for you. And they're like, and you're like, you're like, you morons. You can't even help yourselves. And then you're like, yeah, giant squid dropping it on a city. It seems like a logical answer.
That's like the next best thing for the world's smartest man to come up with.
I think it drives you fucking nuts to be the smartest person.
I can see that. That's pretty good. That would be a fun farcical comic strip to write is, the smartest man in the world. But like you said, you have that moment of him watching 1,000 TVs and being like, I need to save the world, and be like, the world is not really worth saving. And if I tried, they would, even if I tried, I'm the smartest man in the world, they would still fuck it up.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's kind of where Ozymandias and Dr. Manhattan like had that eye to eye where he's like, yeah, you're right. But like, that's our job as heroes. Like we have to help the idiots, and that's our job. And it's like that I get that, you know, that's tough.
That's why he's my favorite character in Watchmen. I love that idea, but fuck, man. Yeah, you're right. I like that idea. That's a hot take on that, but.
So we have a few minutes left. You pick one and then I'll pick one and see where we're at.
Can I lump together like mind powers, telekinesis, and telepathy?
Yeah, why not?
I don't know that those are my favorite. Actually, I know they're not my favorite. And I know that if I could pick a power, that might not be where I start. But like the idea of using the force kind of to manipulate objects, I could see that in a battle, in a superhero world, that's helpful. And I also see it in like everyday life, like where's the fucking remote? Oh, Amanda, put it on the counter. And also telepathy, right? Like being able to read others' minds, being able to implant thoughts, and I think you could use that for perverted evil shit, but you also could help people. Like you just said something about being a teacher. Imagine if I could literally get inside your mind and put things inside your mind. As a parent, that would help. As a world leader, that would help. But then you start doing that thing about too much power and ultimate power and who watches the Watchmen. But I think there's a lot there. And I think that power could kind of outdo a lot of other powers if it was a superhero situation. You know what I mean? Like easy one is telepathy versus strongman, even telekinesis versus strongman. I think you could work that around, you know, but I don't want to trade my legs for it. So let's not get into that argument. I'm not Professor Xing it. I want to be able to walk around also.
To piggyback on that, I'm going to say, like Green Lantern powers kind of falls into that, but like that is so open-ended. When you think about Green Lantern, it's so open-ended. It's actually like almost
omnipotent.
Difficult.
He has all the power he needs.
He's almost super difficult to be like, well, wait, what? And then they're like, well, yellow's bad for him. You're like, wait, what? We had to give him some sort of.
Yeah, can't like fight school buses and shit, but the power of a god.
Yeah, the Bumblebee Transformer is the worst. Yes.
The power of a god, but can't have a cup of lemonade.
All right, let me talk about this one real quick. And this one comes up, and I think a lot of like talking to animals.
I would have never, but we could have picked 100 powers each. That wouldn't have been on my list.
Aquaman has it. Squirrel Girl has it. There's a lot of people who can talk.
I guess you're right. Yeah, there are.
And we treat it like a cool power. Obviously stupid. Obviously, we already can talk to animals. We can talk to dogs and cats. What's up, Rufio? Oh, he understands me. He's like, oh, hey, you're talking to me. It's not the ability to talk to them. It's the animal's intelligence that's the problem. You'd be like, hey, dolphin friend, go stop the bomb. And the dolphin would be like,
what's a bomb?
What's a bomb? Yeah. Hey, go get that key so we can get in the door. And the dolphin would be like, It's the animals being stupid idiots that's the problem. It's not us talking to them. We can talk to animals all day. Squirrels, go fight Magneto. What? Like, you're going to feed me? All animals want is food and fuck. They don't give a shit. They don't give a fuck about what you have to say. They don't know what you're talking about. If you could drop that knowledge in their little brains, maybe they'd understand. But even then, the dolphin would be like, a bomb? What? Like the idea, the concepts that you would flood his mind with would just shut him down. Be like,
the dolphin's hair would turn white and he would just be like crazy, like anyone who saw the deadlights in it.
So and it's like we even train dogs to do specific things and it takes fucking forever. You can train a dog to sniff out cancer, but it takes forever to teach them that sort of thing. And they can understand that. You can teach a dog to sniff out bombs, cancer. What? That's insane. Why do we not use that more? Because it's a pain in the ass. So suddenly you can talk to animals and you realize like these animals are stupid. It again, being the smartest man in the room, you can suddenly like talk to animals and you're like, oh, this is a waste of time because they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. You'd be like, go get me this thing to get me out of jail, Spot. And it's like, I've seen a million Lassies and goes and gets the keys and lets the guy out. No, Lassie would show back up with like a chew toy. And you're like, no, not the chew toy. Go get the keys. And the dog runs off and comes back with like a severed finger. And you're like, where did you even find that? Go get the key. And it's like, oh my God, it'd be so fucking frustrating. so frustrating.
My favorite part about this is to stop listening to you and imagine that somewhere there's two seagulls having a podcast and they're talking about the worst powers talking to humans. Like, they're stupid. If you were like, gaw, 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 human would be like, gaw. Even if you could make this human smart, it'd be like, gaw.
Motherfuckers can't even fly with their little flappy flesh wings.
Yeah, rain would hit them like bullets.
You talk to a dog and he would look at you like Scooby-Doo being told he wasn't in the new Velma series. What the fuck? Yeah, it's a dumb power. And like, look, I think Squirrel Girl is a fun character. Yeah, she's super powerful and funny, but it's like, at the end of the day, the reality of it is just, no, sorry, none of it works.
Yeah, I guess like if I'm in a comic book store and I'm looking at covers, I'm not gonna pick animal powers. Maybe there's probably stories where it's interesting or stories where they use like an outside the box idea, but yeah, it's definitely not a heavy hitter power. It's definitely not like a headliner.
He just uses it to ride dolphins. Great. Mode of transportation solved. That's your power. Mode of transportation always taken care of. Cool.
All right. I got what I think is a great power. Okay. And I think it translates to real world and definitely to superhero.
All right.
But like an early warning system. So you got Spider-Man has spider sense. I think to be Spider-Man, that is fucking invaluable. I think that you can't sneak up on him. We've had this discussion when we were talking about the Predator versus. We did an episode of who could fight the Predator. And I think Daredevil has the same thing because his radar sense gives that 360-degree, surroundings. He hears you. He smells you. He can sense you with the hair on his skin. I think if you are a superhero that cannot be surprised or snuck up on, I think that is a big power to have in that world. I think you and I, there's not too many people sneaking up on me, but I do feel like that still would have a commonplace thing where, like, think about driving. You would never be in a car accident. You would never back into anybody if you had spider sense.
Except how attuned is it? Because if you're driving a car, your mind's like, you're going to get hit. You're going to get hit. Because I'm like that already. Like my Tesla has you're going to get hit powers. And it's always like beep, 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 beep. It's always beeping at me. And I'm like, dude, I'm changing lanes. What the fuck's wrong with you? And it's like, you're going to hit that guy. I'm like, probably, but shut the fuck up about it. All right.
That's my decision to make, Tesla. But yeah, I guess you're right. It depends on how it's attuned and if you can adjust its sensitivity. Yeah, but like the Daredevil version of it to know, like, can you imagine walking in my house and before you even got in there, knowing how many people were in there, probably who was in there and what we were doing? That's a pretty cool thing to have. I mean, maybe it's too much. Maybe it'll be sensory overload, which is a Daredevil thing that happens every once in a while. But I think that's like, that's one of those things. I would take the good with the bad off the top of my head. I'd have to do a pro and con list before I signed up. But like, that would be fucking cool, man.
It is good. But like, again, like what if it's like, you're going to run into that? And you're like, run into what? It's like that blade of grass. You got like 10 million coming at you, bro. So you better be careful. And you're like, yeah, we're going to have to phase that one out. Because it's like the Ring doorbell. Like you have to like really dial that in. Otherwise,
right.
Somebody's coming to your door. And you're like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, sorry, that was a shadow. And you're like, settle down. Settle the fuck down, dude. Oh, can I? So real quick before we leave, here's the one that I would pick. Freezing time.
Oh, it's a great stopping point thematically, but no, that's a really good one. I didn't even think of that too. That's a good idea.
The ability to freeze time and get shit done would be phenomenal. But I just read a book that put a really interesting twist on that. And it was part of the John Dies at the End series. This book is full of spiders. Seriously, dude, don't touch it. And they gain the power to freeze time, but like everything is frozen like glass. Like you can't press the buttons on a keyboard. You can't push somebody out of the way. You can't move the bullets. Everything's just frozen. But like they walk out on a trail of smoke from a fire. And I'm like, that's freaking cool. But like everything's like frozen glass, which I think is awesome. But that would not be the power that I want. I want to be able to like freeze time and then be able to like finish reading the book I was trying to read or like write the paper I was trying to write. I think it'd be dope.
So you said it's frozen like glass.
Yeah.
Meaning they're not able to touch it, or if they touch it, it breaks something.
They're able to touch it. They just can't move it. Like you can't
Gotcha.
Fire is hot, but like it's frozen. You can climb on it, and smoke you can walk out on. But like you can't like move a branch out of the way, or like you can't.
But
like
they can move. So when they unfreeze time, they're in a different spot.
Yes. So
Okay.
it's
So
like
theoretically, like,
teleportation. Yeah.
right. So if someone shoots at you, you could save yourself. Could you unfreeze somebody else or just you?
They do unfreeze somebody else at one point, but like there's a great cost to it. It's interesting.
Okay.
But
So that's interesting.
But it's like you couldn't type the paper. You can't move the pages in the book. The book is
Right.
frozen where it is.
Right.
So you could only read the page that it's open to.
But if the book is 202 pages and you opened 202 copies of the book to different pages and then froze time, like there's workarounds here.
Exactly.
I see what you mean about being the smartest man in the room, because I just came up with that off the top of my head. I didn't even have to freeze time to come up with that idea.
And I feel I must be like a dunce to you. I'm like a kid.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm trying to read a damn book. I'm just like an ape using up.
Like in my frozen world, I'm looking at 200 pages of a book and you're frozen, holding your one book, trying to figure out how to read it. And I'm like, plebeian.
Stupid look frozen on my face.
That's a good power. That would be a good one too. I feel like that's one of those that you could make that work. That would be a good power to have. Pretty much as long as it wasn't a cost. Like if it didn't age you every time you did it or hurt you. You know, a lot of people get hurt, nosebleeds when they do that kind of shit in movies and stuff.
I mean, that's the thing about all these powers is like a lot of them have to be tempered with some hindrance that makes the cost calculable, which is interesting. You know, that makes good stories, but powers alone, man, good stuff.
Luckily, we both got those handsome powers.
Yeah.
And that came for free.
I mean, I've been working on it. I try to stay handsome.
Do you? What do you do to stay handsome?
It's like trying to pee your pants on purpose.
That's kind of handsome.
See? Works.
I just keep telling people I'm handsome, and I think that's my power. My power is so much confidence that you start to be like, wait a minute, is he a little handsome? He's actually not bad looking.
Yeah, see, check out this power. I smile, and I'm like, and everybody's like, oh, look, he's happy. And I'm like, you fucking moron. And they're like, and I'm like, yeah. You can say whatever you want when you're smiling. When you smile this big and everybody's like, he's smiling, he's happy, you can be like, I fucking hate you. And they're like, I'm like, yep.
I'm miserable. My power is making you think that I'm not miserable.
Oh, so good, dude. Well, guys, what would be your power? What do you want? Tell us. Hit us in the comments below. If you're on YouTube, hit us up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Launchpad Pod. Tell us what power you have.
Tell us your worst powers. I want to hear which powers you hate too.
Oh, yeah. Which ones are overused? What's cliche? Polka Dot Man, you know, he's a pretty interesting one to have appeared in the past few years. I know he's a super old superhero, but seeing him come to the big screen and see what those powers would be, is interesting. I like that.
I like there's a Spider-Man guy called the Spot, I think, and he could throw spots and teleport through them. I've seen that used like pretty cool.
I think we could probably do a whole nother episode about this stuff.
Easily,
where it's like talking about like interestingly underutilized powers, alternate ways to use powers that we didn't see coming. We didn't even get into like, I'm a giant shark person. You're like the powers of an animal altogether. I think there's some pretty interesting ones we could get into. So we'll see. Maybe there's a sequel to this. But in the meantime, Rumi, we need to blast this thing off. We're the Rocketeers, and we are out. Dun, dun, dun.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3,